Well, what I was mentioning was that when you are in alignment with your purpose, which it has to do with also your innate abilities, the opportunities for you just arise and the doors begin to open. So if you can recognize what your purpose is and your innate abilities, then you can say yes and you can take advantage of those opportunities more readily and maybe not ponder so much on whether is this direction I want to go or is this not the direction I want to go. And I've just had a lot of experience of doors opening for me more recently as I become more focused on my purpose. More clear I am, yes.
Yeah, we were talking about, you know, that struggle of trying to make or force things to happen and how much energy that takes, and it's really unnecessary. Yeah.
Exactly.
Great. Okay, and we had gotten to 63.
Yes. So from 49 to 63 is where you're bringing together the two parts of you. Okay. I also want to mention that during each of these stages, we are balancing. We are building foundations. We are becoming synchronized with the right and left brain and all the parts of ourselves. And then you move into an area of enlightenment and bliss, and it just continues to get better and better. All these really are all it really is just a technique to talk about how we go through life and how each life and each part of our life has validity to it. Now, so you want to find out what your life purpose is, and then you want to dress in a way that is congruent with how you really are inside. And I was thinking that Princess Diana really epitomized that, because people that are known for their style, for dressing a certain way, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a style that is very expensive, but the people that are known for their style, and when they are powerful, there is that authenticity that exists between how they dress in the outside and who they are in the inside. So I think Princess Diana was a feminine, and feminine means you are soft and romantic and nurturing, and this is the part of her where she was a mother. So in here, you can see where she touched the hearts of so many, and when you still saw photographs of her with her children, I mean, she would just encase them in wonderful bear hugs, and she just had that feminine side of her. But there was another side of her right along with that, and that was the fact that she loved to dress. So I think she was a feminine, elegant, dramatic. Now, elegant says that you are very stately and refined, and very particular about the way things are done, and she certainly had this in her personality. And then dramatic comes from the fact that she had great height and she cared about fashion. So she gets all these parts of herself that are coming innately from within her. There is no way she could have come off authentic when she went around working with children and causes all over the world if that was not a part of who she really was. And there are pictures of her, just scores of pictures of her doing that. So it's just that integrity between the outside way that she dressed and the inside way that she was.
Angie, what happens if those don't match?
What I've found out doesn't happen is that if I'm working with a client and what I am suggesting that might be appropriate for her to wear, if it's not congruent with who she is internally, the changes will not last. She will not wear those clothes. She may wear them initially as something new, but they will eventually hang in her closet and not be worn.
Okay. So, I mean, in terms of really utilizing your skills, that's an important piece, which is to not dress like you think you should, but dress as you are.
As you really are. That's what really makes it. So we're going to spend the last part of that workshop exploring the 7 styles, and we're using clothing from 2 different stores. We're using it from the Discovery Shop, the Cancer Discovery Shop in Los Gatos, and from Après Vu, and we're going to have examples of the 7 styles, and this is what Angie and I have both worked with and what we work with, so that there are 7 styles and each style has a message. So for example, there's sporty style, friendly and casual, traditional style, business and conservative, the elegant style, stately and refined, feminine style, and for men it's called romantic, and this is very nurturing and very soft. Therapists frequently will wear the romantic or the feminine style. Then there is the alluring or sexy style, and this is kind of right out there, and you know, they're really aware that they are a body. And then there's the creative style, and Angie exemplifies the creative style as you do. You both of you wear a lot of the creative style. I seem to be creative in my mind, what I come up with, but I don't wear the creative style. It doesn't feel right for me. And then there's the dramatic style, which is your fashion forward and sort of out there. So each of these styles has a validity, and what you do is you look to see who you are inside and what you want to tell the world about you. So in other words, you're saying to the world, this is who I am.
Well, what if, let's say I'm the alluring one, right?
Yes.
My actual inner essence is I'm very alluring and want to be out there, okay?
Yes.
But what if my profession is a therapist?
Yes.
What does one do? Because my instinct would be, you know, like the Barbara Streisand at A Prince of Tides, you know.
Right.
But
Yes,
this is
good
not appropriate,
example.
okay?
Yes.
So what does one do?
Well,
if what you do for a living
doesn't go with it.
Yeah.
And yet the other thing is apparently the alluring style comes from the goddess Aphrodite, and therapists need the alluring style because what it is, it's transformational. It means you will get involved with the other person. The word alluring means you draw someone to you, almost against their will, and you want to be affected by people and you want to affect them. So it's an excellent style for a therapist, but as you pointed out, you don't wear that in the office because you're not saying, hey, look at me and look at my body. But then there are times that you can do it. Like New Year's Eve is a time where a lot of people do alluring. The allurings come out full force, you know, and they're in their element, but then a sporty person will do an alluring style in a kind of a little fun, kicky way.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they'll show off whatever part of their body they like. You know, oftentimes they've got great athletic legs, and so it's how to do it. And if it's not a part of you, you just bring in a little bit. But if it is a part of you, not appropriate for your lifestyle, then either do it at night, or then I've known allurings to wear very sexy underwear underneath there.
You're not
exactly. But I think the primary is to remember what's appropriate for the occasion in which you're dressing, and sometimes not always is the inherent style going to be the most appropriate for the occasion. So then there's other ways, and that's where the creativity of the image consultant comes in, is to guide the client through the process and to give guidelines on how to wear it appropriately.
Well, that reminds me that when you, I don't know if you know this, but initially Angie did all of the wardrobe for me, particularly the first year. And we would sometimes have conflicts because, like, this that I'm wearing is not me. It really isn't. I mean, I would never wear this, except that she taught me that I needed to somehow look like I knew what I was doing.
Yes.
So, no, we know better, don't we? So, so over time, I've become accustomed to it.
Yes.
But I remember initially, because I tend to wear jackets more like she's wearing, or unstructured.
Yes.
Exactly.
And we would talk about, well, you know, you need to, so I got a few structured jackets, and she's right.
Yes.
You know, that's a thing. You wound up being right. And I find that when I do workshops and things where I want to look like I know what I'm doing, I find myself dressing more like you taught me to do it.
Which is the traditional style, and traditional style gives you authority and credibility.
Yeah.
It just does it.
So I think I got to learn that personally, where in my social life, or in a different arena, I dress differently.
And yet you still have another little touch. I notice you've got the pin on there that's very whimsical, of a woman. So that way you get to be yourself too, in that little creative part of you, because you are creative, and creatives, they don't want anybody to hem them in too much. They just want to be who they are, and they want to create every moment of the day. So this allows you to do it. See, there's still integrity there.
There you go. In terms of dressing people, I mean, what do you do if somebody, well, like in this case, I mean, initially I was like, I don't wear structured jackets.
Yes.
What do you do then?
A step at a time. It doesn't have to be a transformation overnight. It's a step at a time. So you combine different elements of their inherent style for appropriate occasions. So if you don't mind, I'll use you as an example.
Sure.
So, you know, as far, you know, bringing in some floral or some interesting design like what you have done, it's like what we had done before in the form of a scarf to kind of still express that creative element along with the structured jacket. You would probably never wear the structured jacket by itself. No, it wouldn't be who you are. And
That's so true. Okay, so it looks like you have a workbook there. In your workshop, this fundraiser, the women then are going to get to actually go through a system of determining this for themselves.
Right. And I should say it's women and men.
Oh, okay.
Because we're also bringing in some men's clothes from the Discovery Shop. So men in the morning will go through their purpose in life. I one time worked with an engineer, and he had been an engineer for a long time, and as we worked together, 3 different sessions, I said, you know what? I think I see a poet or a philosopher buried in there. And he almost got tears in his eyes, and here he was, this tall man, 6'4", you know, really an engineer, very straight-laced, the way he was dressed. But he said, I also write some poetry and what have you, and I want to get that part into my clothing. So we could do it maybe via his neckties or something like that, or then having the clothes have just a little bit more flair than what they would have had otherwise. So it applies, everything we're saying about women applies equally to men.
You know, one of the things I liked about the fact that you're using the Discovery, it's called the Discovery...
The Discovery Shop.
I was going to say Discovery Zone, but
Yeah.
I have a feeling that is not what we're referring to. Is that you're going to be using clothes that are actually accessible. I mean, one of the biases that will come up sometimes about your profession, image consulting, is that it's very costly.
Right.
And so it's wonderful that you're using accessible clothes that, you know.
They're both resale shops,
Yeah.
and they're wonderful buys that are there.
Okay. Well, and that's actually, I remember, Angie, that was one of the things you taught me about your profession, which is ultimately it helps people choose wisely and actually save money.
It saves money in the long run.
As opposed to just buying a bunch of stuff you wear once. And
You know, whether a person has a $600 budget or, you know, a $1,000 budget, I mean, there's various stores that a person can go to. You can still look very appropriate and well put together. I have to say my mother-in-law is fabulous. She always is appropriate, she always is well put together, and she goes through the Goodwill. So you would never know. So it doesn't have to be, you know, a trip to a big department store or a costly little boutique. It doesn't make any difference. You can still use the same information and the same tools to dress yourself.
yeah, see, that's an encouraging piece. That's encouraging. So the whole point is that once they've been through your workshop, they will be able to make better choices and
Right.
better express who they are.
And their clothing will reflect who they really are inside.
Okay.
Okay. And they'll feel more comfortable with it. They'll actually gain a lot of strength and power because the clothes will be supporting them. Sometimes I like to tongue-in-cheek say, do your clothes support you or do they sabotage you?
That's a good point, huh?
You know, and as women mature, and we change, we grow, and so we're not always one style. You know, our whole life, our styles change and they evolve. So it also gives some information, some direction on how to evolve your style while you're evolving also.
That's a good point, that just because maybe somebody had their, I don't know, their colors done
Right.
15 years ago, may not really, or their style done, may not even be appropriate for who they are now as women. That's a really
Exactly.
good point. Yeah, I remember my mother went through that and threw out all of her clothes and only wore the colors that she was told to wear. But then I also saw her creeping back
Yes.
to the color, and I think it was what you're talking about, which is that there was a part of her that needed to come out. You know, so because she was told to wear a lot of blue and she hates blue.
Yes.
So initially the blue went out. Anyway, we will go ahead and close. I want to thank you very much for coming. I
our
appreciate
pleasure.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Tune in next week when we focus on grandparents raising their grandchildren. I'm Mary Crocker Cook. Good night.